turning my phone down so I don't pay attention to messages.
Okay, we should be live. Hello, Facebook world.
Awesome. Hello.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to turn this down. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook Live. I am here, Jill Woodworth. I'm the host of TSC Talks. Forgot that I was actually on camera for a minute. We are live. I'm with Brooke, Alicia, and we are here to talk about parenting with individuals with challenges related to neuropsychiatric conditions like tuberous sclerosis complex, autism, other developmental disorders where there's a large component of mental health issues that are combined with other health physical issues and tend to make things really complicated. And so we're going to talk about that and share some of our experiences with you guys. And then we're going to kind of talk about a little bit about alternative medicine and some of the things that, you know, we've found to be useful. And I'm going to say right at the outset, we're not doctors. We're not here to treat, cure, or, medicate. We are here to share our personal lived experiences. I've been a caregiver for 24 years. I have 5 children. 3 of them are affected by tuberous sclerosis complex. So and I think Brooke has a wealth of experience as well. Your daughter is how old, Brooke?
She's almost 16.
Almost 16. Yes. So that's putting some time in. She's got a son, and she's had quite a few challenges herself. And Brooke also has tuberous sclerosis. So we've got a lot going on, and we want to share it so we can both give you an awareness as well as offer, some validation and support and hope. So that's what we're doing. And so I'm going to let Brooke give a little intro of herself, and then we will kind of share some of what we've been through lately. So Brooke, why don't you just tell us who you are, even though I just did.
Okay. No, it's totally fine. So going into this, I was diagnosed at 18 with tuberous sclerosis complex. And so at that point, I was told I'd be in the wheelchair by the age of 30. My body would fight off any fetus that if I would get pregnant. Like, it was just pretty much like, your life's over, have dogs and travel, see ya, And then as things went on, I did get pregnant. That's when I got pregnant for my daughter. I had went to hair school. I finished barely. I had to take the medical leave because my kidneys were so bad and just a lot of things. I was declining extremely quickly. And so then as time went on, like, I also had a son. I kept doing hairstyling, but I was definitely on autopilot a lot. One point in my life had 3 jobs. I'm still a hairstylist. I've been one for 17 years. And kind of what Jill said, a couple years ago, I found something that has helped my quality of life. It does not cure or medicate, does not treat. However, that's what we're here to talk about. Through our journey with Rain, she had brain surgery and just different things that she struggled with. And then having a son that has no TSC, just keeping between that boundary and that balance of your life is very hard. You're put in situations you're not prepared for. You're put in situations that you could never imagine that you would have to choose. Some of our choices that we've had to make as parents, as caregivers. And so moving forward, I really look up to Jill because I look at like what she's done with her children, and I always ask her questions. So I met her, I don't even know, like, I think I met you at an event, and then we just kind of like started communicating a little bit more. And then I've been really interested because we can get into it more, but really, like, it's just been it's an ongoing thing that never ends. So we want to just share with you things that we've been through and things that have worked for us and things that have not worked for us. And I'm not saying, and we're both not saying it won't work for you. However, this is where we're at, and we're here to share it.
Yep. Thank you. That was really, really good. So I guess, one of the things that I want to say, tuberous sclerosis complex is a genetic condition that causes benign tumors to grow in all the major organs of the body. And it can wreak havoc at any moment. It can also there's a range of effects. So some people are very mildly affected and might not even know they have it until they have a child with it. And, so there could be a range of effect within families. And it's complicated. And there is the mental health component is called TAND, which is tuberous sclerosis associated neuropsychiatric disorder. And it's been said, I don't know the exact statistic, but 80 to 90% of people that have TSC have some component of TAND. And that can many times be the most challenging aspect of tuberous sclerosis over time. And if you think about it, you've got a condition that affects, causes benign tumors to grow. Think about the brain, we're talking about a systemic effect. So if one part is affected, the other parts are going to be affected, whether it is shown, you can see it visibly, or it's an internal thing. And that's really challenging because a lot of our loved ones or people affected, we don't know the what's going on inside. We can't see it. And so that's hard because there's a lot of, you're open to a lot of interpretation by people that don't have a lot of information. So starting with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that happened with, or I could pick any story. I will say my son, when I moved out of I ended up getting divorced, and, it's very hard on relationships, and I'm not going into my entire history, but we may talk a little bit about that more. It wears you down, and, you're watching your kids go through some really extreme things over a course of time. Anyways, I ended up moving out. My son, who was, he was 13. He really struggled with a lot of behavior to the point where he was really unable to progress academically. We tried pretty much everything, different classrooms, medications, different specialists. And he was very aggressive. And so it became a situation where it was volatile. And he will tell you, he would come after me, and he would be threatening towards his sisters. And there were several occasions where I had to call emergency mental health, and I had to have him placed in psych hospitalizations. And this was, I had been through it with my older daughter, and so I knew what I was getting into. And we kind of had to draw a line in the sand with his behavior, and worked with a counselor and some in-home services. And what we ended up doing was kind of saying, if you do this one more time, we're going to, and following through. To make a long story short, he went through 2 psych hospitalizations, and they were actually 3. The first one was in a hospital, and that one was really just a holding place, and I didn't feel like it had much effect, and he wasn't given follow-up services. And then after that, he went to an acute behavioral CBAT. I don't know what the thing is for that, but it was more of I don't want to say laid back, but it was like in a home type setting, and there were a lot more peer connections. And there was a lot, his therapist was kind of integrated into the program, and we came in, and he was able to really connect the dots. And from there on out, his behavior, a light bulb went on, and he became aware of how he was treating people. We filmed him. He was shown the films of himself being aggressive, and that kind of helped him turn a corner. And we're talking about a kid that's got a cognitive disability as well. So for him to be able to make that realization and start to change his behavior from the inside out, instead of, being talked at. And he had many reasons to be mad. This kid had many reasons to be mad. I kind of try to look at the whole situation and everybody's role in it, and understand that we're all just trying to do the best we can and figuring it out, and not assigning blame. And that's really painful, because you're watching your kid attack you, but also why. So it was brutal putting him in those placements. But I will say that helped him turn a corner, and we've had a lot of challenges past that. But after that point, he started to own his own behavior. So that's been a success story. And I know that many of you out there, I've talked to you, I've seen your post, I've read them. And, I know that some situations are so complicated, and, I'd say mine still is in many ways. So I'm not going to go into more stories than that, but I know that what we did might not work for you. But that's kind of where we got to the psych hospitalization point. So I'm going to let Brooke share a little bit about what she's been through recently. So take it away, Brooke.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I mean, it's not nice to hear, but it's nice to hear you're not alone. And it's nice to hear that like you did get to that point where, you know, you can not always breathe, because with TSC you can't, there's always something coming up, but you know, like just that he found, you know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, I need to fix this. That's where I'm at right now. Like we're trying to figure out how to, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, like how to keep her alive, how to keep her quality of life amazing, how to keep her healthy and you know, thriving in life for her, like what's going to make her flourish and have a purpose. And when they can't control that tan, so I wasn't really aware of tan. Having TSC my whole life, I've never dealt with that. I did have some behavioral issues when I had my kidney tumors, because my kidneys made me so toxic. I had really changed a lot. Like I had agoraphobia, depression, I wouldn't leave the house. Like I am not the same person today as I was. So when they were able to help me with that chemo medication, Afinitor, it has changed my life drastically, as far as like my kidneys have shrunk from 4.5 centimeters down to nothing. And so as I was healing, I was starting to recognize like what was happening. And as I was like getting better, she was definitely declining. And so then when puberty hit is kind of when it hit for us. The tan really came out. And I was like, what is this? You know, it just kind of hits you like a bus. So just, you know, even in September, there was kind of like, it was starting to get less, but then like when the behaviors had happened, they were extreme and I didn't know what to do.
Example of, you know.
Yes, I'm doing that right now. So
Sorry.
Here's my example. We were boating. No, you're fine. I kind of ramble because I have TSC. So, okay. So we were boating all day long. We had like the most perfect day as a family. And then all of a sudden we're on our way home. She thinks her laptop's charged, which I don't let her have internet actually very much, because she is overstimulated and it's too much for her. And we're like, no, someone else needs to use a charger. And that's all we said. And all of a sudden my stuff gets thrown out of my car, off the side of the highway, down in the ditch. She's trying to choke me from behind. We get out of the car, we grab all my stuff. I mean, my new license plate hadn't even been put on this car. So I'm trying to find all of it because I need all the papers from the, you know, agreement from buying the vehicle and all of that stuff. And we're like an hour and a half away from home. I'm like, how are we supposed to get home? You know, what are we supposed to do?
Right. In
my home, we have cameras, we have locks on our doors, we have that, and you know, we can get into how we've had to live for us, but it was such a traumatic scene. Like I'm like, do I call the cops? I am an hour and a half away from home, what do we do? And I ended up sitting in the back seat with her and videotaping her the whole ride home, because I said, you're not going to just act like this and think that this doesn't happen. I mean, she was punching my car, she did everything she could to just avoid, like, just over me saying that someone else needed the charger, and she was at 100%. So yeah, it was extreme. And I can talk a little bit about this recent behavior if you'd like me to.
Sure.
That kind of brought us to where we're at. So I know that she might watch some of these sometimes, so I try to watch what I say, because I know that she has brain trauma. She had brain surgery at 3. So she not also has tan, but she has the behaviors from not having that right frontal lobe, making executive decisions, impulsivity. As a normal teenager, you know, you don't make the best decisions, but hers is just so random. And, you know, they were asking what's her triggers, nothing. What's warning signs? Sometimes never anything. So for us, it's just kind of, like I said, it hits you like a bus. So all of a sudden, like few weeks ago, I was laying in bed. I was ready to go to bed. I did my night things that I do. I was laying in bed and I hear her come like, if you don't wake up now, I'm gonna bug you all night till you can't sleep. And I'm like, why is she even mad? Like, what is happening? So I'm like, Rain, you know what happens if you don't go to sleep? Like, just go to sleep. She wouldn't go to sleep. And then I hear something thrown in the kitchen. I have big, huge, like high top, like chairs, and she was throwing those. She got out an object and tried to hurt herself and threatened all of us. And so I decided, I'm going to take you to my dad's for a couple of days, just to kind of like, so you can calm down. I don't want to take you there because you're being bad. It's not like a privilege. We'll reassess this in a couple of days, but I don't feel safe with you here at this moment. So as we're headed there, things escalated. She got more fearful. We called a couple of different people. She admitted to them what she had done. Out of her safety, we were removing her, you know, at the time from the home just to a families. And then they're like, you know, we have to report this. And they're right. So Rain will say, like, I'm going to hurt myself, just like she would say, I want chocolate milk. That's how I would explain it to somebody. She throws around that threat a lot. And so I don't know if it's where this comes from because we don't talk like that.
My
But,
daughter had done
it
the
was
same
serious.
thing. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
couldn't not take it serious anymore. So they said, you need to call the cops. We pulled over. Sheriffs came. She was running from them. Then she ran through my passenger side to my driver's seat. Luckily, the car was off, but we had to regretfully admit her that night
Mhm.
to a place 3 hours away. It's COVID's going on. I can't see her. And so I was hopeful like they would keep her for a week, get her stabilized, get some group therapy, have a plan. And that's not what we were given. We were given a new med that they didn't look into that could have made her manic within a week. They took her off her other prescriptions that they didn't even really look at immediately that need to be weaned off of. And I told them, if she comes home and something happens, this is on you. You know, I don't feel safe with her right now at my
Mhm.
home. And I can tell you right now, I know the hardest thing before that was to have to put her through brain surgery because I didn't know if I was making the right decision to stop all those seizures and then be left with the regression, the social regression, and all the regression from that it causes. However, at that point, we had nothing to lose. And I was kind of back there, but, differently. And watching her go away in that EMS truck, when I couldn't be with her. And, I was really like, I don't know how I functioned. It was probably, I cannot cry about it now, but it was the hardest thing I ever had to see. And it was nothing I wanted for her, but I knew that we had to do something because I didn't know what else. It's hard to like not be able to help your own child. And time again, I'm reminded that I can't fix this. I'm fighting a brain. Like I am not in control. And that's been really hard for me because I definitely was a control type person. But as I've realized as life goes on and TSC gets worse, I'm throwing my hands up. Like I will fight tooth and nail for that girl every day. And it was hard. I was angry the first couple of days, and then I was like, "No, she needs to be here. This is good." And then they're like, "Nope, she's coming home. We put her on a new med." And I'm like, "What?" Because I'm like, "Is that safe? Is that okay?" And then you see worse things when you're there, so it's not really good. And I'm not trying to ramble, but to me, putting people that have a mental illness and have that mental health issue that you can't see, like we said, it's not physical, you just throw them with the people that are in trouble, and it's different. They're not bad people, they're not bad kids that are looking and seeking for to steal or to destroy. Like this just
Right.
happens to them and there's no control over it. And so I feel like they really get lost in the cracks.
Yeah, and you really made a good point there. And just, yeah, I think that anybody that's in a psych hospital has probably had unbelievable amounts of trauma and never know the story that led there. But I think, I saw my own daughter very similar with the threats to her life, and, ended up using that as a tool of manipulation, which might be hard for people listening to understand. You kind of almost become like, this like numb to it in some ways. It becomes
Mm-hmm.
almost, I don't want to say a joke, but oh, this is being used this way. But then, when there were times that there was some seriousness to it. So it's, I think what Brooke and I are kind of both sharing is the ongoing trauma that can occur and kind of living on the edge, and the fact that the systems that are in place for this type of situation, while I am not here to criticize, or I'm just here to say they're not adequate for uh, a, an individual that has the full, a situation like this where cognitively they might be functioning at the level of a 8 or 9 year old, but they're in with, older kids, or kids that are at the same age, but their intellect's a little higher. And so that's one piece of it. And then there's the other piece, that often the history that of tuberous sclerosis and the connection with the clinic or the team that provides the close supervision of the neurological component is often not included in the loop, nor is the school, and I think in some cases social workers are therapists, but in a lot of situations that part is on the parent to integrate that and to make sure that everybody's communicating. Like Brooke